Now, near the end of my last video, I said that the next couple of videos I was going to do on this channel was going to involve how I would change and give the WWE a complete and utter overhaul. And this is the first video of that series. This is going to be multiple videos covering a plenitude of different topics, and I really just think that one video is not going to cut it because I have a lot to say. So keep a lookout for the next couple of videos. They may come across every couple days, maybe a week or so. I'm trying to make this as concise as possible. The first thing that I think that the WWE definitely needs to do, and I've been stressing this for a while in some other videos, but it's time for it to get its own dedicated video, is they need to build some better rivalries. Now, this is something that's been mentioned probably numerous times before. However, this is something that I believe is the first step in the WWE overhaul. Now, we all remember in the classic era, from the beginning of the Attitude Era and even before that, that rivalries were able to span not only just 6 to 8 months, but multiple years. Of course, we remember the Clash of the Titans with Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant. We remember HBK taking on Bret Hart, Mankind versus Undertaker, The Rock versus Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus The Rock, just to name a few. These are rivalries that weren't allowed to die after just a couple of months. These were rivalries that really took place over the period of a couple of years. Now, of course, to be fair, there were multiple contenders that came along that challenged whoever the WWE champion was at that time for the belt. It wasn't always just one versus the other for a year on end. This is something that the WWE really excelled at. They were able to give everybody their fair opportunity while at the same time maintaining these long-term rivalries. And some of them didn't even involve the WWE title, which is something that was very good, especially the Undertaker versus Mankind. This was a great rivalry. This is, of course, one of the most famous rivalries in all of sports entertainment, and it's, of course, because of the classic Hell in a Cell matchup where Mankind gets thrown off the top of the cell and then through it. These were rivalries, as I said, that branched out towards multiple years. And they had some pretty impressive storylines to go along with it. There were betrayals, there were just power clashes, there were just power struggles, and there was, of course, I would say, the ultimate who's on top type of scenario, where we saw that, especially whenever it involved the WWE title. Nowadays, though, because of the way that the WWE has kind of become, these rivalries aren't allowed to really span that long. They still will kind of try to rehash old rivalries and make them known. However, it does not always maintain the same level of importance or the same level of hatred or bitterness between the two participants, mostly because they've had to branch off and do their own thing. For example, back in the day whenever Stone Cold Steve Austin would take on The Rock for the WWE title, there would be moments where Stone Cold or The Rock, whoever the champion was at the time, would have to face off against another performer, such as a Mankind or a Triple H or whoever. However, the animosity between these two superstars, be it while they were faces or heels, was always maintained, and it was always kind of implied in the head of the wrestling fan who had watched throughout the duration of the rivalry. Nowadays, it doesn't seem like they're willing to rehash that very much, and a good example is the current rivalry between John Cena and Randy Orton. Now, a lot of the casual wrestling fans will probably not know, but the very dedicated and very observant wrestling fan will be able to remind you that these two have had a storied rivalry in the past. The WWE has worked to try to acknowledge this and work this in a slight fashion. However, they're really avoiding mentioning some of the highlights of this rivalry that could really recapture the bitterness and really make Randy Orton look to be the true heel in this matchup. Now, I'm not saying that they haven't marketed Randy Orton as a good enough heel. Believe me, the actions that he has done has definitely pushed him over the top. However, with the way that the fans are today, the reaction to Randy Orton is still a little bit different than it is for most mainstream heels. Someone like Chris Jericho will have his music hit and walk out from the back and will get a parade and a barrage of boos. However, Randy Orton comes out and it's a little bit different. You still hear the boos, but he has to work for them a little bit harder to kind of sway away all the people that cheered whenever his music hits. Hey, a lot of people out there are Randy Orton fans, regardless of whether he's a face or a heel. A lot of these people are either internet marks or smart marks, whatever they may be. These are people that genuinely do like Randy Orton's body of work regardless of what's gone on, regardless to how he's been utilized, whatever. However, as I've said in a couple of different videos, this rivalry is not looking intense enough. And this rivalry has definitely been dampered by the fact that there's a pay-per-view every couple of weeks. And there's really not any type of opportunity for them to really make these rivalries huge or really push them over the top. Of course, we have John Cena as the new WWE Champion as the result of the I Quit matchup at Breaking Point, which is fine, because Randy Orton had held on to the belt for a long time and had many matchups against Triple H, and had won basically all of them, mostly from extraneous circumstance. And while that's good and everything like that, thrusting him right back in with John Cena, having him win once, and now having Cena have the belt and have Randy Orton in chase mode, it's a good idea, but the utilization of it has not been good. Mostly because the rivalry is not yet believable. They have not solidified it yet in the lore of the WWE. You might be saying, well, hey, Mark, it's going to take a little bit of time. Well, it shouldn't. Because these guys have the opportunity and they have all the seeds to one of these long-term, long-distance rivalries that I'm telling you about, that they built a couple of years back whenever John Cena's father got punted square in the skull by Randy Orton. Now, pushing aside from that and going towards other rivalries, one thing that can definitely be noted is that once a rivalry reaches a breaking point, it often stays there and is done, in today's terminology. For example, Rey Mysterio versus Chris Jericho. This is a good solo rivalry that is starting to get rekindled because of the tag team contest that they have this Sunday at Hell in a Cell. And this has been a long-distance rivalry that has taken place over not only a number of years, but also multiple companies. If anything, this is perhaps the most genuine out of all the long-distance rivalries that still remain. However, if the WWE really wants to rekindle the fire that they had during the Attitude Era, and by rekindle the attitude, I definitely mean the ratings, they need to make these rivalries a little bit more believable and a little bit more, well, over the top.